guys, it's Sir Harry. Welcome back to World of Tanks, and today I've got a special treat for you. I'm going to do something I don't normally do all that much. I'm going to feature a subscriber replay, and the last time I did this, I guess when I hit the lofty heights of 100 subscribers and asked you guys for your best replays from Tier 4 to Tier 8, I guess it was. And you guys sent in some real doozies, and today we have the pleasure of watching one of those winners, Vertragssteuer, who won the Tier 4-5 category, I believe it was, or 3-4. Anyway, won the bottom tier category in his AMX-40, the Duck, the awesomely terrible Tier 4 French light tank, alleged light tank, because of course it's super slow and actually has pretty thick armor for a light tank. It does have a nice little punchy gun, not very accurate, but at that tier you can lob high explosive shells and wreak all kinds of havoc. And Vertragssteuer sent in a couple of replays for me, and this by far was the most remarkable of them. And he is playing in the Tier 9 Russian heavy tank, the T-10. Some of you who played the game for a long time may remember this used to be the IS-8. It led on from the IS-3 to the IS-7. And like most of the heavies in this line, at least at higher tiers, it's relatively quick. It actually has a 50 km/h top speed, which does give you some options that a lot of slower heavy tanks don't have. And in this case, Vertragssteuer is playing on live oaks, and he's decided to go south. Despite the fact he's in a heavy, he didn't go to the city. He's going south, and you'll see this sometimes, especially when you get some platoons of good players. They will sometimes focus on the south, try to overwhelm the enemy, and carry the game from there. And you can see Vertragssteuer is being really aggressive now, getting some spots off, and Spa-Panzer puts a shot into his side. Vertragssteuer returns the favor for a lot more damage, but now the Spa-Panzer has tracked him. Vertragssteuer takes a hit, misses a shot, and luckily his teammates bail him out. The M4A1 Revalorisé comes to the rescue and takes out the Spa-Panzer. So now you can see there's some pretty big beefy guns here pushing south, the T-30, the Revalorisé, and of course the IS-8, no sorry, the T-10. It isn't still the IS-8. And they're making some good headway to the south here. So we've got pretty much the south cleaned up depending on what's ahead. Oh, and there's a T-25-2 and a T-29 up ahead. T-25-2 sitting out in the open. He doesn't have much chance. He's going to get cleaned up. But that T-29's hull down behind the ridge, and even though this is a Tier 9 battle, that T-29 has pretty awesome hull armor. And now you can see there's the Russian artillery. No, that's the TD, the 122-44. That looked like a high explosive round. And that's why I thought it was artillery, because, yeah, that was a very, very slow shell. And it sailed right over Vertragssteuer. I think he was shooting at the T-30 there. But yeah, that's interesting. Anyway, I'd be curious to find out if he was shooting HE or not. But yeah, he's cleaned up now. The STR VS1 takes him out, and Vertragssteuer is going to push this T-29, who, while he's hull down, has really nice armor. When his bottom plate's exposed like that, or his hull armor in general, especially against Tier 9 tanks, he's not going to last very long. So that T-29 doesn't know what to do. Vertragssteuer's going to get him from behind there, tracks him in place. Great job. Get some extra assistance damage there for taking out that Tier 7 American heavy tank. But you can see the cost of focusing in the south like this is that city always doesn't go very well usually. And his team's been absolutely cleaned out up north. The enemy's got all of their high tiers, the Leopard Prototype A, the T-10, and the T-34 have all pushed north. They're supported by the Emil 1 and the Conway there on that middle ridge around D2, D3. And Vertragssteuer, unlike a lot of less experienced players, is actually turning around and going back to base. And this is huge. I've talked about this before in my videos. You want to get back to base if your cap is threatened, because defending tends to correlate a lot more strongly with victory than trying to push on and maybe cap out the enemy. It's very difficult, especially on this map, to cap out. The cap circle's in the middle of an exposed plane, and those TDs, the Conway, and maybe that heavy tank, the Emil, up in D2, D3, if they're able to get lights on you, could just rip you apart while you're sitting in the open exposed in that cap circle. So you can see the enemy started to cap. His teammates are calling for help. There's a Type 62. Hopefully he'll find a bush somewhere up around D7, D8 and spot the cap circle and remain hidden. Don't shoot or anything, of course, when you're doing a mission critical spot like that for your team. And sure enough, we started to spot some enemies. Let's see what Vertragssteuer can do with his 122 millimeter gun. Nice shot into the T-43, the Tier 7 Russian medium tank. That's not going to stand much of a chance. This gun does a lot of pen. 258 with the regular rounds, 340 with the heat. And there you go. The IS, the Tier 7 heavy, gets taken out. Those Tier 7s are going to get torn apart by a Tier 9 heavy tank like this. Gun's not too bad either. It's relatively accurate. It's got .33 dispersion, which is pretty good for a Russian heavy tank, I'll say, especially for a 122 mil gun. And it's got a 268 aim time, which is actually not bad as well. T-34-3, the tier 8 Chinese medium sitting in the cap, and oh, that poor Type 62 just got ammo racked. I didn't notice there if he'd shot or not. If you're in a bush like that and you're spotting, especially at that close range, you absolutely do not want to shoot, especially when you know there's a lot of enemy around, because you will get taken out, and that's exactly what happened there. So Vertragssteuer is going to pick up the slack here, try to spot the enemies in the cap circle. There's still a lot of time left. There's still a minute 14, so things are not critical yet, but now there's a lot of tank wrecks in the cap, and you know that's exactly where those enemies are going to be hiding, right behind those wrecks. And Vertragssteuer spots the T-34-3 and gets some assistance damage there as one of his teammates puts a big beefy hit into it. And look at that, angles the armor like a boss, and just as the T-34-3 fires, and it ricochets harmlessly off his side. So well done there. He's given a real masterclass here in heavy tank driving. So now that T-34 is surrounded. There's a tier 9 Batchat coming up on his flank. I don't expect that T-34 to be alive much longer, unless the Batchat's in the middle of a reload, in which case he's probably just trying to distract him. Yeah, there's the T-34 there. He's taking a shot in the back from the T-34, and I think he's going to take him out here. Let's see. No, the T-34 manages to pull behind cover, and there's one shot, and there we go. Kill. Yep, awesome. That's his second kill of the game. Well done. 3,700 damage so far, but there's still a lot of enemies left. His team's down 11-10, and there's some big dangerous tank destroyers down there. The RHM, the Conway, and of course the Swedish Emil tier 8 heavy autoloader tank. So the Leopard has gone back down to the south. The T-10's gone down south, the enemy T-10. Again, those are pretty fast tanks. I would not be surprised if they do an end run around to the south and come back up the tracks along the zero line to try to surround Vertragssteuer's team. But let's see what happens here. Vertragssteuer is playing it very careful. You can see his view range circle is maxed out there, the inner circle, showing that he has a full 445 view range. The T-10 has a base view range of 400, which means if you tag some coated optics on this, you'll be up to 440. And if you have a crew with a bit of situational awareness skill, you'll easily be able to get that up to the max 445. Alternatively, if you're using vents or the premium consumable extra combat rations for the Russians. Say that 5 times fast. Okay, so his team's gone kind of Alamo mode now. We've got the Batchat and Vertragssteuer watching the approaches from the city, and we've got 2 TDs watching the approaches from the south there. RHM makes the mistake of pulling out in front, gets spotted, and Vertragssteuer puts a round into him for his 3rd kill. And you can see there the Leopard prototype, which is on perilously low health, dumped a heat round at Vertragssteuer's turret, and the T-10 does have a pretty awesome little turret, manages to defeat the high explosive anti-tank rounds. So now you can see Vertragssteuer is going to use the terrain to his advantage. He's going to mask his approach here to that Leopard, who is a one-shot. If he can get a good clean shot into him, I think it looks like he's probably hiding behind the T-62 wreck, but you know what? A Leopard prototype is a lot bigger than a T-62, or Type 62 rather. And yeah, Vertragssteuer sees his rear end sticking out there, puts a round into him. Well done. And also, I think, managed to bounce around from the T-10. Did he? No, from the Leopard. Okay, well done. Another heat round, 390 damage blocked. So Vertragssteuer again, he's putting the nimbleness, the agility of the T-10 to good use. There's the Emil. I don't think the Emil, the tier 8, is going to be able to penetrate the front of his turret, and sure enough, he doesn't. But Vertragssteuer puts a round into his side there. The Emil would have been much better off coming up the backside of that hill instead of climbing the side of it. And wow, look at that. That was a great shot there. Okay, Vertragssteuer is slinging the heat rounds now too. 340 pen. The front turret of that Emil, of course, is very well sloped and can be kind of tricky to penetrate. So good call there to go to the heat. I think while he figures that Emil is back behind the hill there, he's going to push on the enemy T-10. Good call. The enemy T-10 is held up in front of those 2 TDs. The SDRV is on really low health, and sure enough, the enemy T-10 takes him out just as the SDRV calls for help. And Vertragssteuer arrives just a moment too late to save his teammate. The IKV is still there, the Tier 7 Swedish tank destroyer. Really, really good gun, but otherwise, I got to say, I really despise that. I'm considering free XPing past it because it's really hard. I found it really hard to have a good game in that. The gun is awesome, but everything else about that TD is absolutely terrible. So we'll see if I decide to burn some free XP on that. And you can see here we go again. Vertragssteuer had his turret facing to the west. and that no doubt played a bit of a part in bouncing that round from the Emil. But now they're getting pinched. The Conway's coming in from the north. The Emil's laying down suppressing fire. So can Vertragssteuer find a shot between the buildings? And it looks like that Conway's backing up. Is he? No, he pulls forward. A bit of a psych moment there. Vertragssteuer, mouth watering, no doubt ready to plant a round into the side of that very dangerous British TD. And here we go now. Can we get a shot in? Yeah, well done. 429. Takes 423 in return. Vertragssteuer is probably a one-shot now for the Conway, but you know what? The Conway is pretty much a one-shot for him too. So now we're into a bit of a duel of wits, and you're trying to use gaps between the buildings to feather shots. Vertragssteuer, you can see there, is pre-aiming on that little area there, hoping the Conway is going to pull out. I would hope the Conway wouldn't, but you never know. He might. He's got 3 kills. He's probably a pretty good player. But Vertragssteuer now, having drop spotted, is going to try to change it up a little bit. This is another tactic you see really good players do. Once they drop spot, they don't stick around the same spot where they know the enemy knows they are, if that makes any sense. They relocate. They try to change the angle on the enemy so the enemy's not going to expect them. If they do pop up, they won't be pre-aimed on that location. And he's hoping the IKV probably is going to spot the Conway for him. And sure enough, that's exactly what happens. Look at that. And 1, 2, 3, and bang. Good night, sweetheart. There goes the Conway. Well done. Very well done. So now it's 2v1. The IKV, it looks like he's getting ready to move there. I think he was just hiding there praying for his life while Vertragssteuer cleaned up some of the enemies that were coming at him. And yeah, they're trying to convince him to go down the one line there. Or, yep, the A line, sorry, rather, while Vertragssteuer flanks around to the south. So you can see now the Emil is running for town. That's probably his best chance. He's going to have to get lost in the buildings and hope for the ambush shot. He probably won't one-shot Vertragssteuer, but he is an autoloader, and if he can track Vertragssteuer in a position coming around a corner where he can't get his gun to bear on the Emil, then yeah, he'd have a chance of taking him out, and then I don't think the Emil would have any problems taking out that IKV. So finally the IKV has been convinced to move a little further north. It looks like he's still camping though. He's guarding that A line, I guess, in case the Emil moves north and doubles back towards the base. But yeah, I would find that highly likely. Again, I think the Emil's probably going to try to set up the ambush on Vertragssteuer somewhere in the city there. And so Vertragssteuer is advancing very cautiously. You can see him using those mounds of dirt to protect his lower plate. There's the Emil. There he is. Oh, Vertragssteuer couldn't get the turret around in time. That would have been a beautiful side shot. His Sixth Sense didn't go off, and I don't remember. Does he have Sixth Sense on this crew? I'm pretty sure I remember it going off. Well, I guess we'll find out in a moment when he comes out from behind cover. But if he hadn't been spotted there, that was an absolute lost opportunity. Now he backs up. No, he's got too many buildings in the way. The Emil is playing it very cagey here, hiding behind hard cover. So the problem now is if Vertragssteuer gets within 50 meters, the Emil will know exactly where he is. Is the Emil going to come around the corner? He was heading in this direction when he drop spotted. Let's see what happens. Nope, doesn't seem to be going that way. Oh, there he is there. So now Vertragssteuer is within 50 meters. They're both spotted, so no Sixth Sense went off. So Vertragssteuer does not have Sixth Sense on this crew. Wow, look at that. The IKV actually moved and shot and hit the Emil. So that's going to force the Emil out of the main street there. He's going to have to come around the corner. And this now is going to be really dodgy. Vertragssteuer is going to have to stick out. He doesn't have enough room to side scrape, I don't think. So can he get out? And boom, takes one from the Emil. Well done. 7 kills, 6,192 damage. So on to the battle results. Not surprisingly, an ace tanker, hand of God for getting hit by a whole bunch of different tanks. Vertragssteuer actually did a lot of spotting damage too. We got the spotter ribbon, of course the duelist for exchanging shots with a bunch of enemies, fire for effect, shell proof, bounced a lot of shots. In fact, he bounced so many, he got the steel wall. But look at this, Confederate, because he damaged so many tanks, and he got the Top Gun. It's rare that you see somebody get Top Gun and Confederate in the same battle. Confederate's usually kind of the consolation prize for not getting a Top Gun, because you damage a lot of tanks, but you don't kill any. But killing 7 and getting a Confederate, that's a really, really significantly great battle for Vertragssteuer, and the high caliber for doing just so much damage. Tank sniper in a Russian Tier 9 heavy tank. That tells you a little bit. Again, the accuracy on the T-10 is not bad at all. And yeah, defender, wow, what a great job. He actually interrupted the cap to save enough cap points to get a defender medal. Absolutely unbelievable. And there you go, no surprise. Top for experience, top for damage. Top for damage on both teams, that is. 1,506 base XP. 6,192 damage with 7 kills. Unbelievable. Well done, Vertragssteuer. He did lose a bit of money with the standard account, unfortunately. He did sling some heat rounds around, but considering tier 9 heat rounds are pretty expensive, he didn't lose a whole bunch of money. Well, 2,270 block by armor. Holy cow, what a battle. Vertragssteuer, well done, my friend. Thanks for sending in the replay. And hey, you guys, if you have any really, really awesome replays you want to send in and I can get them up on the channel, let me know. And thanks for Vertragssteuer again for sending this in. If you liked what you see, guys, please consider clicking like and clicking subscribe. This is Sir Harry. Thanks so much for watching. Cheers.